We are live. Hello, everyone out in Facebook world. My name is Stacy. Now I'm the executive director of the Kansas African American Affairs Commission, and we're here with our regular lunch and learn. And today I am thrilled to have with me Miss Linnaia McKenzie of AAGJC, which is the Advocacy and Awareness Group of Johnson County. I don't know how good my sound quality is, but here in Topeka, they're testing the emergency, like the sirens. And so if there's sirens in the background, I'm like, of course the sirens start right when I'm trying to go live. That's it. You can't change things with live stuff. So hello, Nana, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stacy, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So it's a lunch and learn. So I always have to ask people, have you eaten lunch yet?
Yes, I have eaten lunch. I had some leftover pasta, which is usually my lunch on a daily basis. So it was really good. Yes, I made sure to eat before I came.
Yeah, I had some leftover chicken and rice. Nothing spectacular, but it gets the job done.
Exactly.
Okay, so Linnaia, I have been aware and have known Linnaia for about 3 years now, I think, going on. And I wanted you here to talk specifically about your organization, the Advocacy and Awareness Group of Johnson County. How did I know how it started, but I want to give you the chance to talk about how did this group get started? What was the origin story, and what were you thinking a couple years ago when you got started?
Yeah. So it was definitely 2020. So this was at, the height of the pandemic. So we'll start there and set the scene with that. I was sitting on my couch Memorial Day weekend watching the news. And then the news dropped about the murder of George Floyd, and it didn't just drop, but we actually got to witness the tragedy happen. It was all over YouTube. It was all over the news. It was hardly censored, even when news channels were showing it. And we literally, as a nation and as a world, watched George Floyd take his last breath at the hands of the police. It was in that moment, as a mom of a toddler, as a Black woman who lives and grew up in a predominantly white community here in Johnson County. I just felt like I could not sit on this couch any longer. I've got to get up. I've got to do something. I've got to show the community how important it is to take action in whatever way we can in response to this senseless murder. So I actually ended up texting a couple of my closest friends that I know and grew up with here in Johnson County. And I said, we need to have an event. We need a march and rally. The community needs to, one, hear about this. Two, we want to hear from our local police. And specifically by we, I mean people of color in Johnson County. We want to know for sure that we're protected. And I also wanted the community to feel unity after that, so that we could support each other through it. So it started as the most grassroots event you can think of, where we took 2 weeks between Memorial Day weekend and it happened to be Juneteenth weekend as well, which we originally didn't plan on, but I'll come back to that in a second. We took about 2 weeks to get together all the resources we could. We connected with the city of Overland Park, with Downtown Overland Park Partnership, and we made it happen. We had our first march and rally event that weekend, which was Juneteenth weekend in 2020. So how the event actually came together was in direct response to the murder of George Floyd. I'd had enough. I didn't want to sit down and watch another headline go by without doing anything. And even though, Overland Park is not Minneapolis, but I feel that there were enough similarities between the metro areas that I thought, if this can happen there, this can truly happen anywhere. And so it was more of a proactive approach to, making sure to, one, speak against police brutality, but two, make it clear to this community that this can happen here and we don't want it to.
Right.
And so that's where the event came from. So just to give a quick rundown on what that event consisted of, it started with a march that was the starting point was Overland Park City Hall. And then we walked from Overland Park City Hall all the way to Thompson Park, which is about 0.9 miles of a distance. And it's important to talk about why we felt the need to march, because a lot of the times you'll see in the community, marches only get organized in direct response to tragedy. They're not always something that are just they're not always created to address local issues as well. So for that reason, as well as commemorating the reason why marches started in the first place back in the civil rights movement era, it is a way to bring awareness, to raise your voice, to come together and say, this is what we want as a community. This is what we need. And the visual of all those people banding together and marching in unity is why we march.
I was at the first march, and I wanted you to talk about, because you invited the police to the first march.
Yes, we did.
Mm-hmm.
So how they played a part in that is we wanted the safety element a part of the march, because we had children marching, and this was a peaceful march as well. So we didn't want, any issues. And so again, we recognize that the police is there in our community to keep us safe. And that's what they demonstrated at the march as well. And I think that at the same time, them showing up was definitely a sign of good faith as well, at least as Overland Park is concerned. The police officers were very helpful and ready and willing to do anything we needed that day.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so I was at that first one. It was wonderful. We had great weather. There were a lot of people there, several hundred.
It was people. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, several hundred people were there. Peaceful march. It went really, really well. Mm-hmm. And then I know it, but your group has not been specifically or solely just about marches and rallies. I know you've been active in doing other things. So if you could talk about, because AAGJC started because of George Floyd's murder, but you didn't just do a march. You took that a step further and sort of got involved with community members. So can you talk about that first docuseries and then the second one too?
Yeah. So that was my favorite part about this whole story, is what happened after that. A lot of the times you have those events, you get everybody riled up and then nothing happens. And that was the case in our organization. Afterwards, I saw the need for an organization to put on events like this, but also just to like raise awareness about social justice issues that impact the BIPOC community in Johnson County, but also if it affects the BIPOC community, it affects the privileged community as well.
Right.
I'm really kind of leaning into this idea that we're not all, if one of us is bound, we're all bound. Until we're all free, then that's real freedom. But until then, I just cannot see anyone really operating in full freedom. So with that said, I saw the need for an organization to put on events like this on a regular basis in the community, and asked for people who wanted to be a part of a leadership team. So out of that conversation, I was able to get 11 community members from all different areas, all different walks of life, all different pasts and histories and jobs and everything. And we came together to form AAGJC officially. And so one of our first projects following the initial march and rally was the I Am George Floyd docuseries.
Right.
And this is important to share because at this time, especially in a community where, Black people are the minority, the majority wants to know how we feel about George Floyd and what it felt like to us to watch that tragedy play out on live television. How do we feel now in our own communities? Do we feel safe and do we feel protected? And that's the story that we wanted to tell through the I Am George Floyd docuseries. So we were able to cast 8 Black men who live and work in Johnson County and have, a story to share about their experiences. And it was really enlightening. That we're very, very, very proud of that initial docuseries because it was very authentic. We asked one question that led to many other discoveries, and we're really proud of that. So much so that we decided that now we want to hear from Black women. So that actually led to our second docuseries, which happened the following winter, which was called Say Her Name. And the reason why we wanted to produce Say Her Name is because we realized as well that what people seem to forget is that Breonna Taylor's murder actually happened before George Floyd. And didn't talk much about it. Not to the extent of where people's eyes were really open with the George Floyd tragedy. Well, they're both tragedies. What is
Right.
really the difference between, it happening to a Black man versus a Black woman who was actually in the comfort of her own home when that murder took place. And so we thought we wanted to make sure that we also tell that story, as well as tell the story of Black women who live and work in Johnson County and wanted to share their experiences. The ultimate goal is we don't hear from this demographic much at all.
Yeah.
Not on a platform, unless you're someone like yourself, Stacey, who has really worked and built a platform to be able to speak out, for what you believe in. Otherwise, I think BIPOC people in this community kind of stay to themselves and keep quiet out of comfort. And I don't feel we always get that welcoming invitation that we need to say how we feel. So I wanted to make.
I put in the chat a link to the YouTube channel, because AAGJC has a YouTube channel, and so I put in the chat a link to so you can see all the docuseries of the George Floyd and the Say My Name series.
Yes.
I will also drop in your just website in general. So yes, I do appreciate that, because having been a part of the marches and rallies for the past 3 years, and then thank you, one, for the continued invitation to be a part of those rallies, but also thank you for the invitation to be a part of that Say Her Name docuseries. That was a wonderful experience to get together with other Black women and just talk about our experiences here in Johnson County, and what it's like to sort of move through the world as a Black woman. And I agree. Sometimes I watch TV and I find myself counting how many Black women I see. Like, do I see Black women in advertisements? Do I see Black women in shows? Do I see Black women, just in various places?
Yeah.
And it's made me aware of how often Black women's voices are not involved in conversations, or not involved in spaces. Honestly, it's made me aware of how often just women of color in general, right? If it's, because then I start thinking, well, where are the Hispanic women? Where are the Asian women? Where are the, where are the indigenous women? I just start looking, so I sometimes to the point that my 11-year-old, sometimes we can be watching TV, and if an ad has a Black woman in it, she'll be like, Mom, there's a Black woman in it. So I'm like, oh, I'm not trying to make my kids paranoid, but thank you for the opportunity of giving voice to the specifically Black women. I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah. And we'll probably extend an invitation for you to speak every year. It's always so impactful, encouraging, insightful to have you on our speaker list. So just expect that for next year and the years to come.
I'll take it. I have a standing date.
Yes.
Now you mentioned that the first year it just so happened to have fallen on Juneteenth weekend. And quite frankly, I remember that first year, I think there was so much going on with the George Floyd situation that Juneteenth was truly an afterthought, right?
Absolutely.
Like I was not paying attention to Juneteenth at all that first year, that 2020 height of the pandemic, right?
Mm-hmm.
At that point, there was no vaccines. So there was still a lot of masking. I felt very comfortable because we were outside, but there was a lot going on. So Juneteenth was not high on my priority list. Last year, you mentioned that you were aware of the Juneteenth holiday. So tell how did that play into the planning last year and then this year?
Yeah. So early on, after the organization formed following the first event in 2020, we thought this would be great as an annual event. So we wanted to just basically kind of templatize the event and redo it with some updates and with some new elements for 2021. So when we went to go look at our calendars, we're like, oh, wow. First of all, Juneteenth just became a nationally recognized holiday. So that's great. And then also our event accidentally fell on Juneteenth weekend. And so we thought we need to add this as a core element of the event from this point forward. So we actually had the pleasure of co-collaborating on the event last year with a local organization called Women of Purpose. And between our efforts and theirs, we made last year a Juneteenth celebration. And so it felt right. The event was absolutely amazing. We still have the opportunity with honoring and recognizing Juneteenth to talk about, again, the essence of where the event started, which is, we wanted to form as a community following the murder of George Floyd.
Right.
And so it's our time to also reflect on that past, in efforts to, make sure that for the future, we can do everything we can to prevent anything like that ever happening in our community and in other communities. And it's also a reality, kind of like a checkpoint for where we are right now, and where we are in this present moment. So that's how Juneteenth became one of the kind of core elements of the event. We definitely wanted to honor the original weekend that the event landed on, but also bring in an element of Juneteenth to make it a really kind of well-rounded, full-out event.
Right. And Juneteenth, it's interesting. I'm a Midwest girl. Like, I was born in Nebraska, raised in Iowa, lived in Kansas for the past, almost 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a lifelong resident of Johnson County as well. So I think Juneteenth, I've always been aware of Juneteenth, even from a little child, but I feel like it's growing in. No, I can't say growing in significance, because that's not right. But I think it's growing in awareness. More people are aware of Juneteenth as a holiday is probably a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
It's getting wider acceptance. And you mentioned the fact that it was made into a national holiday.
Yeah.
Last year that happened, which was really fantastic. And I know that you have been involved in, maybe raising awareness of Juneteenth, perhaps as a state holiday. It's not happening right now, but I know I've tried to bring your voice into the conversation about making, Juneteenth, having it get elevated even in our state. So can you just give us, now, I know the answer to this question, but I want you to give us, tell us about Juneteenth. Give us a little bit of a background about Juneteenth, and why do you think it's important for us to be aware of it now?
So Juneteenth is the day, commemorates the day where we basically released the Emancipation Proclamation as a country in 1865. So essentially, this is what Black people in our country consider Freedom Day. This is the day that kind of slavery was abolished in our country. So especially when you think about it in comparison to why we celebrate the 4th of July, which is celebrating, the freedom or emancipation from Great Britain for the US, there's an identical reason to celebrate Juneteenth, which is emancipation from slavery for Black people.
Right.
And so I will have to agree with you and say that in recent years, it's become more significant, because we have to understand that this nation was really built on freedom. So unless all people are free, unless people have a clear path to a free life and a free education and a free, being able to pursue your dreams, this country is not being what it was built on. And so, especially in the light of a lot of tragedies and attacks by people of color in our country, to me, it's been a reminder of what the essence of this country is, which is we're here because people wanted to be free.
Right.
And so for that reason, I think it's important to also recognize that. And in my personal, kind of view of the two events, I see them as equal. Because
July 4th and Juneteenth.
July 4th and Juneteenth, July 4th, I celebrate because I'm a US citizen, and Juneteenth, I celebrate because I'm Black. And that is kind of a background on Juneteenth and why it's important and why it's significant today. Right.
I mean, and it's an interesting holiday to think about, right? This idea that that's finally the day when everyone in the country sort of really became at least aware of the fact that they were free. Now, one can build the case that perhaps some people don't quite have the mindset to know that they're free even today, but at least legally, we had achieved freedom. And then so just learning about the history of Juneteenth and learning about the history of Reconstruction that came after the Civil War it's been fascinating to me to find out just even more in depth the history of Black people in this country. It's amazing, and oftentimes I didn't learn it in school. Like this is stuff I've had to like Google and YouTube and read up on my own as an adult. So it's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I know that. Okay, so AGGs, you have the marches, you have the rallies.
Yes.
You've expanded out. You've done docuseries, at least the 2. What are your plans? Do you have plans in the pipeline that you feel comfortable sharing with us about future projects, or where do you see this expanding or branching out?
Yeah. So the most recent thing we've done, and then I'll go to the event we have going on this weekend. The most the recent thing that we've been working on is something called the 5-point plan for improving police feedback in Johnson County. So what we did as a part of that project is we started a petition where we had over 250 community people sign that petition in support of us wanting every police municipality in Johnson County to have an online form for citizens to be able to provide feedback with. So we are so happy to say that we were able to go from about 5 to 17 municipalities in the county having an online form as a result of that work. And so that kind of brings me to the essence of what we're working on, and I can hint on it, but there's going to be more petitions and there's going to be more community building because now after the series of events we've held, after the support our docuseries got, after the support our petition got, we're really seeing the impact of community power.
Right.
And so what's very cool about it is that community power can influence our elected officials and influence decisions that are made for us. So we want to see the community be more involved in helping kind of change the trajectory in the future of our community. And so there's more petitions coming, more opportunities for the community to get involved in the work. And that's my little hint on that. And then, of course, we are officially now a 501c3 organization. And so we'll be definitely working to kind of get together our internal systems and processes so that we can scale and be here as long as we can.
Awesome. And then this weekend, yes, the event this weekend, you have a march and rally coming up this Saturday.
Yes.
Go.
This Saturday is the 3rd annual Advocacy and Awareness Peace March and Rally. And our tag this year is a Juneteenth celebration because that's really what it is. In the celebration, we're going to do the same type of format we've done for the last 2 years. Is we'll start with a march. So we're going to meet at Overland Park City Hall on Saturday, June 18th at 10 a.m. And then we will march at 10:30 all the way down Santa Fe Drive to Thompson Park, where we will hold a rally at 11 a.m. So just to kind of speak a little bit on what to expect, we've got some amazing performers and speakers coming out. Grammy nominated Joe Black, the artist, will be performing. We're so happy to have the KCK All-Star Band back this year. They were such a hit last year. Of course, we've got Stacey Nell on our program. We've also got Roland Park and Overland Park mayors, Mike Kelly and Kirk Skoog. Gina Repass will also be speaking. And then we've got some amazing vocalists lined up. So Andrea Trevitt. We've also got Pastor Jason Sims, who is the pastor of Mount Carmel on KCK. And then last but not least, Miracle of Innocence is an organization here in the community, which basically supports Black men who are wrongly accused for crimes and put into incarceration. So they're going to be speaking about some of what their organization does. And also that's that element to kind of circle back to how this event started. And so, again, that's Saturday, June 18th from 10 to 1 p.m. is the programming. It starts with the march. We really want to see people come out to the march this year. We'll have water and fans. It will be hot, but it'll be in the morning and it'll be for a great cause. We just have to go back and remember where we've come from and how we got to where we are as a nation today. And that is because a lot of those marches and sit-ins and demonstrations, exhibited, in the civil rights era were really impactful. And so, and it wasn't that long ago, which
It
is
really wasn't.
it wasn't that long ago. And so that's another thing we want to reflect on this weekend is, how far have we come?
It's true. I mean, I think there's definitely this sense that if pictures of an event look like they were taken in black and white, so like, because pictures from the 60s, some of them are in black and white. So people somehow think it's like ancient history.
Yeah.
This was in the lifetime of my parents, right? I mean, when I was in elementary school, in Des Moines, Iowa, that's when that school system was getting desegregated. So within my lifetime, right, was when the school systems were getting desegregated. That may age me a bit, but date me because I'm guessing my age.
It wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't. It really was not that long ago. And I think collectively, America has a pretty short memory. And so we think, oh, that's ancient history. We're past it. But it's not the case.
Right.
Okay. So I've dropped into the chat information about the rally this Saturday, June 18th for the March and Rally. It starts at March and Rally, Juneteenth celebration at Overland Park City Hall at 10 a.m. to march to Thompson Park. The rally will begin at 11 a.m.
Right.
I look forward to being there like I do every year, and I think it'll be fantastic. We only have a couple minutes left, so if you forgive me, or just allow me, I always, at the end of everything, I have to give my little spiel about making sure people are registered to vote. Yes. If you are not registered to vote, please, when we talk about the history of our people in this country and the history of marches and the history of what we were marching for, a lot of what our people have fought for in this country is the right for full representation, to be recognized as a people and to be able to vote for what happens to us in our future. So please, it's the most important and the least thing you can do is to make sure that you're registered to vote. I also feel it's extremely important for us to be aware that we have to vote in every election, not just the general elections in November, but there is a special election on August 2nd. And I'm not going to refer to it as a primary anymore because I think that might be confusing. It is a special election because everyone is allowed to vote in this. Sometimes if you think primary, you think, well, if I live in a situation where there's not a contested primary, I don't vote. That is not the case for this election. It's a special election. So whether you're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, or unaffiliated, everyone is available to vote in this primary. There is a Kansas constitutional amendment question that will be decided in this primary election. It has to do with women's reproductive rights. And so I think it's very important for us to make sure that we speak up about who should have the ability to make decisions about reproductive health. If you think, okay, I know about it, but I'll just vote on that question when I get to the November election, you will have missed the opportunity. This question will only be on the August 2nd ballot. It will not show up again on the November ballot. So it's so important, talk to your friends and your neighbors. Do you have a plan to vote? Do you, maybe you request a mail-in ballot early so you can make sure that you get a chance to read through the ballot, read what's going on, and make a plan to vote in the special election on August 2nd. I cannot stress that enough. It's when I was at a Juneteenth event in Junction City this past weekend, and I found I didn't talk to people about my commission at all. I was just like, I literally walked around and was like, are you registered to vote? Here's some information. Are you registered to vote? Here's some information. So important for our community to make sure that we're registered to vote. So if you are in the Johnson County area this weekend and you want to show up and listen to some speakers. I've heard Gina Repass speak. She's fantastic. I find that my speech delivery method is a little quieter. I watch some of my speeches. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're such a. When I give, it's funny in my life, I feel very like but when I give speeches, I kind of talk soft, so it's crazy. But so come on out. It'll be a fantastic time.
Yes,
and I thank you, Linnaia, for your heart for the community. I thank you that you were one of those people, because so many people are fed up and frustrated and are like, what can I do? But you are one of those rare souls that didn't just say, what can I do? Or didn't just sit and wring your hands. You actually got up and did something, and you did no small thing. Like you organized some stuff and got some stuff pulled together. So kudos.
Thank you. Thank you,
Kudos to
Stacey. Thank
you.
you. And I would be remiss without shouting out our amazing leadership team. You all know who you are, but I'm thankful for you all. I appreciate you. They're definitely people that support any vision I have for our organization and the community. And we also collaborate very often on things that we do, especially this event on Saturday. So I'm congratulating you all in advance. Thank you all so much for making Saturday a complete success. And Stacey, thank you for the time, for the platform, and always giving me the opportunity to have a seat at the table.
It's, you know what, I was always raised, if you get through a door, you don't shut the door, you turn around and see who you can bring with you. So
that's right.
That's what I'm always going to be looking to do. All right. So thank you so much. We're at time. I want to thank you again, Linnaia McKenzie, the Advocacy and Awareness Group of Johnson County. Again, that rally is this Saturday. It starts at 10 a.m. at the Overland Park City Hall for the march to end at 11 a.m. at Thompson Park in downtown Overland Park for the rally. If you are around and looking for something to do to celebrate Juneteenth, please come on by. All right. Thank you so much. I'll see everybody next Monday.
Thank you.